Pardon the wind, but I want to explain to people who are new to my channel. This area had 1 inch of topsoil and 8 feet of clay under it. There are places here that have clay 17 to 21 feet thick. So what we did is we have amended this soil. First, there was a brush company cleaning power line on the highway, and I got them to come in here and dump 2 double tandem dump trucks worth of their brush cuttings off their chipper. And then I sprayed it around this whole garden and let it sit for a year, and then we started turning it under. But the problem is I now have 8 to 10 inches of topsoil that's man-made, but under this entire square is 8 feet of like right here is 8 feet of clay under 1 inch of topsoil. Right there is 7.5 feet of clay under the man-made topsoil. So my problem is it's a sink. You have a big square around here of 8-foot clay. And so when it rains, and we had almost 11 inches in May, we've had a sprinkle and a fairly decent rain in June, and today is the 8th of June. And the problem is it's hard for this to dry out down to 8 and 10 inches. Now I dug a hole over here to show you what was going on. Now up here at the top, see, it's fairly loose, and you could plant in that. There's no problem with planting shallow rooted plants, you know, cucumbers and squash and stuff. You can just loosen the top up a little bit and I drag a little hoe that I grounded down to a V, and that just makes a little trench, and you could drop your seeds in for cucumbers and squash and they would grow. But things like tomatoes that send down roots a long way and deep, and we plant our tomatoes 10 inches under the ground, you know, the bottom of them, it's hard for the sun and a windy day like today to dry the soil out very deep. And see, here's what's on the top, and it'll crumble. But when you get down in there, see how it holds together a little more? So you might be wondering why this guy hadn't planted his whole garden. It's because I'm waiting for this big sinkhole to dry out. And one of the things you can do is I have set the blades on my rototiller, my walk-behind rototiller, to just do shallow. So what I'm going to do is come through here with the rototiller, which will disturb some of these weeds, which is good, and I'm just going to loosen up the top because we've got a nice windy day out here and we've got the sun out, and then the water moisture down in the soil, which isn't really great right now, but as long as, see that, you can see your fingerprints in it, it's too wet to plow deep. So I'm just going to break the crust on the top. See, this is a hardened layer of crust that's dried out. And I'm just going to take my rototiller and open it up so the moisture underneath can come up through this, you know, open soil and dry out quicker. Now here's my rototiller, and you got to come in here and get all this was on the rototiller from plowing earlier. And you need a pair of like metal cutters, you know, pliers like it. You can cut through a thick wire to cut the bigger roots that are wrapped around that. And then I take a razor blade knife and just split it to get it off. And then this guy's how deep it is. And you can change this pin, and that blade has 6 holes in it. And when this is all the way down, it shallow plows, and when it's all the way up, it'll plow to 6 inches. And see, that's where the tines are, and that's where it's going to be running on the soil. But you got to remember, clean those tines out, because if you got this big mass of stuff right here, you're not really getting the depth that you want. Well, it's 1:30 in the afternoon on the Wednesday the 8th of June. And once the sun works on this, see, I'm finally getting full sun on the whole garden. So the sun is overhead, and eventually it'll be on the right side of that oak tree. But it will cover this garden, and a lot of that moisture will evaporate up through that soil. And then late this afternoon, I will lower that and dig in here deeper, you know, like that far, because that will have dried out some. And then I'll turn all that up, and then it'll evaporate overnight, and then tomorrow the sun will get on it, and maybe we can plant something in here. Well, I plowed all these rows a second time a little bit deeper, and with all the wind we've had today and the sun out and the next few days of sun, it should be able to dry this out to where we can get most of our plants in the ground. All the onions were weeded out. We did find 4 more of our candy onions going to seed, which is a bad sign because they still got 3 weeks.